Well, good morning. I kind of uploaded some of these videos. I'm not sure which is what, but anyway, I put the seat on this thing. It had a bad rattle in the motor. I kept thinking it was tinny because it wasn't like a rod knock or anything. But I pulled off that front valve cover, synchronized the carburetors, I put gas in it, put the seat on it, and thought, well, I'll just go drive it. And the knock is just horrible. It's not a rod. I don't know what it is. Some kind of balancer in there or something. Somebody that knows vmaxes probably hear it right away and say, well, that's a blah blah. That's not me. So I'm going to try to start it here. The battery's kind of dead, but let's see if it will start. Well, if that choke would stay on, I'll try to do it with my knee here. Anyway, it's got a really bad noise. And when I drove it, got plenty of power, runs good, but that knock just gets worse. And if you're accelerating, it makes a noise, and when you decelerate, it makes a noise. It's a motor speed noise. I don't know what it is, but I'm at the limit of my try to fix something while it's in the frame. I put a lot of money in the bike itself, and front forks and brakes and paint and this and that and the other thing. So I basically gave up and bought a 1997 motor. There's a little bit of timing difference between the timing chain. I mean, not the timing chain, but the timing ignition cinder units are a little different. This is a 2-point system, and the 97 has a multiple trigger pins. So I may have to replace a different cover. It wasn't on the motor. I don't think that one's going to work. I may have to replace the flywheel. I don't know what I'm going to have to do. But anyway, it's a guaranteed motor. All exactly the same compression. So that's my next goal here, is to I'll finish cleaning up and painting and fixing scoops and putting on the front end and doing the stuff, and I'll make a video of taking out this motor. I've never taken one out, so that may be pretty interesting for you guys. Anyway, that's the end of this 89 motor. I'll have it for sale on eBay. I'll try to just get 500 bucks. I only paid 900 for another motor, so I think one with some kind of weird noise in it probably worth at least 500. Transmission's good compression, everything like that. So sort of disappointing, but that's the way it goes sometimes. If the motor would have been good, I would have had a good deal. And now that I have to put another motor in it, it's $1,000, a couple days work. But we'll see what happens. Stay tuned, and I'll try to make these videos not so wiggly and stuff, so you can see what's going on. Well, here we go, taking this thing apart. Not exactly sure what all has to be done. I know, of course, the carburetors and all of this V-boost stuff and manifolds, all that's got to be taken off. Of course, our exhaust pipe. Looks like the clutch cable here needs to come out. Of course, mufflers and back exhaust pipes, and really the only way to get them out is to completely take the mufflers off. The radiator and all of its hoses got to come out. Probably the horn in there, and of course all this stuff that is here in the way. The little radiator manifold and the back brakes there, and of course there's some bolts here for the motor mounts. But basically I just have to strip everything off of the bike that's in the way, and probably a bunch of little wires and stuff for cinders. So I'm going to do that. First thing I'll do, I guess because I've already had so much practice, is take off these mufflers again, and then pull off the carburetors and all this stuff. Anyway, it's not going to be a difficult job, at least taking it all apart. Might be a different story when we talk about raising up that motor. I don't have a jack. I probably have to make something. I might be able to get one guy to help me put it back in. I know that this is not going to be a one-man job. There's a possibility that when that frame comes apart, that I can actually lift the whole motor up on a jack. I kind of doubt it. Anyway, that's what I got to do, is take it apart. I started pulling off the carbs and getting these back on here through the lines is well, that easy. So what I did was just take apart this dual unit here. This is what opens and closes the throttles. I took it apart and pull it off. That way I just leave the cables on it. Then I separated these this heat shield here from the main plastic thing. I just put my screws and stuff back in the frame. If you're taking apart something, you think you'll remember it, but one thing leads to another, and 2 months from now you won't remember where anything went. So just bag everything, but try to put the bolts back in the frame, or whatever they came out of, the same place they came out of, and then when you go to put it together, it makes it quite a bit easier. I've got one side of these carburetors loose, cables are loose. I should be able to loosen the other side, pull them right out. Carburetors came out easy enough. I've got all this V-boost servo and Interesting, I read about this thing. It's a little rectifier that useful in quite a bit of the circuits. But anyway, looks like I've got some bolts here on the manifold that takes off on the head that takes off the manifold, and some bolts down in there. And I think I can get to everything. Maybe I can take this off as one assembly and then disconnect the cable. So that's what I'm going to try to do, is get this V-boost manifold assembly off and go from there. Of course, all of this foot peg assembly and everything comes off like that, and this cover comes out, so I have to drain the oil, and so I'm draining antifreeze right now, but I'll go ahead and take this off. I got a set of tools here, brand new one, and of course you see one's gone there. It's around here somewhere, but this is the one that goes up into this manifold. But anyway, I just keep on taking this stuff off. I know it's all got to come out, and all these wires got to come loose. Well, that's pretty straightforward. I don't know how good this camera's picking it up, but you know, for brand new oil, that stuff looks bad. It's got a lot of metal in it, and dirty too. I was gonna just throw it away and change oil. Turned out that I'm gonna wind up getting rid of the whole motor. So anyway, I got there's like a 12 millimeter there for the clutch cable. I've got alternator cables, everything pulled off. Just some sort of sending unit wires. Of course, one thing that is in there that's got to come out is I don't know what that is. Oh, it's just a little metal tab. Is the battery cable. So I know I've got to pull this front end off of here to get started loose, but for now I'm just going to yank this clutch cable out and see if I can get it up out of the way somewhere. Got that off. Same deal here. I'm not too impressed with it. I'm squeezing the clutch right now, but the oil don't look very good. Looks like it's got water in it. You can tell when it's hitting the oil there. So anyway, I'll let this drain. For now, I could just put this cover back on it, just to kind of keep oil out of the motor, and so I don't lose my bolts. I don't think the cover's got anything to do with taking the motor in or out. I guess I'll find out if it does. There's the oil, oil draining from the oil filter. Looks terrible. A lot of aluminum, so whatever is worn out in this motor is definitely worn out. After fooling around with this a little, I decided that it'd probably be best just to leave this V-boost assembly on, because that's a really good place to grab a hold of the motor and pick it up. It's pretty much balanced, and I know heavy stuff is really hard to fool around if you don't have any place to grab, so I'm just going to leave that be for now. I don't know what the deal is going to be about taking this motor out, but once it's out, well, then I can take off this V-boost. It'd be easier to fool with and everything. For now, I think I can probably just do something with this assembly here, and or maybe take off a bracket. Anyway, I'm just going to leave these manifolds on until I do get the motor out. I just have to press on. I got the rear exhaust clamp all loose, and a few more wires and everything pulled out of the way. Just keep on taking it apart. Okay, I finished draining the oil, and that's only had not even maybe less than an hour of running, idling, and it's already just filthy, and it's got a lot of metal in it. So it would have probably taken, even if this motor would have ran right and not had too bad of a rattle in it, it would have took 2-3 oil changes to get all this crap out of it. So maybe it's better that I just put a new motor in it, and this one here, probably just take it apart, see what's wrong with it and fix it, or just sell it as a used part that's got problems. Alright, in an earlier video I showed putting a new gasket on this case, and you glue it to the case part, and you don't glue it to the motor. In the video I glued it to the motor and the case, so it's really on there. So, and then one thing you can do if you have trouble getting it off is put something in a bolt hole, and put one in the top. These, I'm not going to use these, but you put one in the top and one in the bottom like that, so you can kind of wiggle the case back and forth. I just hit it with a rubber hammer to kind of try to break it loose. Now I'll get me a couple tools here and see if I can get it off. So anyway, I'll just keep fooling with this. I've got it kind of loose now, and do what I got to do to get this the rest of the way off. Well, I got it off just by using that little knife in there. I think basically this gasket is ruined. I could probably make it work, but you can see it kind of tore about half the gasket in two, and I've still got some stuck on the motor all the way around. I don't know if you saw the earlier video, but that Yamaha Bond stuff really works good. I would have really had a lot of trouble if this thing had been run for a long time. So when you put the gasket on with new stuff, in order to make sure that it don't give you such a trouble getting it off, just put it on the case side, and that way it'll pull right off with the rest of the stuff. The reason I took this off, not so much because I couldn't get the motor out, but I want to strip this and paint it And so that's what I'll do now while I'll put stripper on it while I'm taking the rest of this motor apart. Now here's one of the reasons that I took this case off now, is I'm going to have to use this flywheel on the old motor, or on the new motor that I'm getting, this old flywheel, because this got double pickups in it, and the igniter box and everything up here is all set for double pickups, and the 89 uses a single pickup and a different igniter box, and it looks like different coils. So what I'm going to do, I've got a wrench on this and a big hammer, and I'm just going to whack it. Of course, this is a one-handed whack. I felt something give a little there. I can't tell if it's a motor just turning. I'll put it on compression and give it another whack. This is not really the best tool. This is a 12-sided. I need a 6-sided tool, and I'm sure there's some way of locking this motor up, but usually a good heavy impact like that will break it loose. Anyway, enough of this one-handed stuff. Let me get a good tool and get this thing broke loose. Well, here's my setup. I got a big crescent on that inside nut there, holding it pretty good and blocked against the frame, and I got kind of a long deal here, and then what I'm going to do is take a rubber hammer and just give it a good whack right here in the middle while I'm putting pressure on it from the top. We'll see if that'll break it loose. Yep, that worked like a champ. I broke this nut loose, and all I got to do now is I've got a 3-point puller, and that flywheel needs to be pulled off, and I don't know where it's at, but anyway, I'll round up the stuff I got to yank this flywheel off and clean it good. I notice there's a lot of steel and stuff stuck to the magnets inside here, and just press on taking the rest of it apart. Okay, I pulled the front headers off, loosened up all the bolts, and just pulled this thing out. It wasn't that bad. Now I just have to work it around. Yeah, that's good. Get that out. So looks a lot better. Now I have to pull these little manifolds, and there's a little heat shield in there. I think the heat shield's got to come off too. But we're moving right along on it. I re-cleaned this with a good cleaner. Paint stripper took all that old paint off, and I'm redoing this with a ceramic engine enamel. It's a first coat. It's about dry. I guess I'll shoot another one on it and I'll let it dry real good and then sand it. Here's another update and a painting tip. This is that stator cover, and what I painted it with this engine enamel was ceramic. Last time I painted it, it was pretty cloudy and wet, so I painted it, and got a little dirt and stuff in it, so I let it wait a couple days and then sanded off the bad stuff and painted it again. It just went crazy. So this stuff here says you need to recoat it within an hour, and usually as long as you do put your coats on within an hour, then nothing will happen to it. But what happens if you let it dry more than an hour or a day or something and then sand it, it breaks the surface a little bit. So when you put a new coat on it, the solvents go down into the bottom, release it, and it goes nuts. So anyway, back to our lovely paint stripper. I stripped it all again, sanded it again, primed it, let it dry, and looks like I got a pretty good gloss on it now. This area right here could use a little more paint, so I'm going to give this a few minutes to dry. It looks like this side's real nice. Let it dry. Should dry a little bit more. Paint it again. This thing, I took the shell out of it. This is the scoop with a hole in it. I decided I was going to try to just paint the top part, shine this bottom part. But the time I got to sanding on it, I realized how much time it would take me to polish it. I think I'll just clean it up good, do the same deal, primer it, and I'll paint this whole scoop gold, which is the color of the bike. Well, there's a final wet coat. Looks pretty good. Nice and glossy. Of course, it's not a factory finish by any means, but it's pretty good. Especially for just a spray can. I'll let it dry up a little tack free, and then I'll put it where it'll dry without getting dust in it. Tack free means that there's no dust on it. You can touch it with a tack cloth, but probably the time it's dry it won't make any difference. I'll just leave it out here in the sun, make sure it gets dry good, and then put it inside tonight, let it cure a few days. It should be good with that. So I'll hose these things off and just paint them black, since I'm going to paint the bike and the scoops and everything gold. Black will look just fine with all this, and I can put that aside and move on to the next part. Here we are, still trying to take out the motor. I've got the radiator and everything all loose here. I've got it just holding on with some hoses, so I'm going to try to take them off as close to this motor as I can. I know all this stuff has got to come loose, this radiator manifold and everything, but I think I can take it loose and just kind of hang it up over the top. And I got some stuff back there for the brake, and I broke off a bolt in that little heat shield there. I didn't break a bolt, I broke the end of my T-handle off. This is what T-handles look like. They got a little round end on them, and it snapped it off right there, but it snapped it off inside that little plate. So that's going to be a little bit of a job. I'll have to take a pick or something, dig it out, and then once I can get the plate off, I can take that exhaust pipe out, and some more on the other side. Looks like this foot peg here, I gotta have to take it off. It's covered with black paint too, so I can take it off and strip it. So just moving along on getting this thing apart. Well, the screen's cleaned up pretty good. I used paint stripper on them and then cleaned them real good. Shot a coat of primer on it. I painted both sides. This is the outside we're looking at now. Of course it's out here in the dirt and everything else, but they're gonna work just fine. Probably shouldn't be picking up wet paint, but and I used this roll bar and chassis paint on it. It's a gloss paint. I got a lot of it. I was going to use flat black, but that's for the motor. Anyway, this is painted. Well, sitting out here in the sun. Should dry pretty good soon. Yeah, I got a lot of this done. I got the manifold loose, except for a hose. And it looks like this thing, it looks like there's a bolt right here. And this is some sort of a manifold that's only got one clamp in it. You can see it's moving around there. So it's probably just a hose clamp in there. So I'll jerk this off and finish taking that starter and things off, or at least the wire. Well, it came off easy enough. Now I've got my horn and everything loose. And it looks like there's a thermostat housing and a manifold there. Goes through this crossover thing here. Now I did read real quick in the manual how you're supposed to take this apart. I don't know if I had to take that manifold off or not, or thermostat housing rather. Frame comes apart right here, so it may go by it. I don't know. I'll find out when I get this big bolt off how hard it is to take that housing off. Probably be just as well as if I did take it off. That's just another inch of plastic sticking out there that I have to go around and deal with. Okay, so I took this radiator hose off of that hose pipe over there. Everything here is unhooked, and now I'm just taking it up here, and I'm just going to stuff it up here on top. And looks like I got another hose there in the back. This one here was really easy to come off. I just put pliers on the clamp and stuck a big screwdriver under the holes and just pried it right off. So at least I know what's happening on there. I was studying this some more. This bottom rail here unbolts, of course, but this thing right here don't unbolt. It's solid and there's only just 3/8 of an inch room there. So somehow this motor is going to have to come forward to get off of that shaft back there, and then all the rest of this bolts out, so this whole section of the frame here on the bottom would be missing. So we were just debating whether to use a great big flat floor jack, and my friend here has a great big rollaway floor jack. So anyway, it looks like it's pretty straightforward. All the wires and everything are kind of loose here, or not hooked up to the motor. I might have missed some stuff, and I might still have to pull this V-Boost motor in there loose. I did that once before. I just have to take these bolts up here loose on both sides, and I can move it around. So a couple more hours work, I think, and I'll have this thing ready to drop. Well, moving along, I noticed that excuse me, Took my medicine, made my nose run. Anyway, here's this V-boost system. It's got a cable hook to it, and it goes up here on the top, some kind of a servo motor and electrical connections and crap. And so I was trying to find a way where I could just take this off, either here at this end. It's got a screw there too, and there's also a screw back in here, where I can somehow just take that cable loose, and that's all I need to do to get this V-boost system out of here. But I don't know how to do it, and it's not clearly obvious just first looking at it, so I'll have to go to the book and see what I gotta do to get that off. Might just have to pull all these manifolds off, I don't know. Well, here's the next day, and this JB weld is hardened. You can see where it's broke, and it all looks good. Sanding off aluminum there, so looks like I've repaired this cover. I'm still going to paint it. I don't think I'm ever going to get it right here to make the Yamaha show up. And this one I was doing a little more stripping. This is my foot peg. It was painted. You see this paint's just falling off of it. I got a little more down in the front of the scoop, but this paint stripper actually works really good. It does take off grease and stuff, but it's really designed for paint. So I'll let this just set a few minutes, hose it off, and this foot peg should look fine. It's taking off that old crappy paint the guy put on it. So, looking good. Clean that up and press on. Here's the thing after a little cleaning. I got all the paint off. It's got some rust on it. Looks like I got a little paint left right on down in there. But for the most part, this all come up real nice. The chrome plating, when it's on a casted surface like this, is not really complete, so they will rust. But for practical purposes, this is clean enough. Once I get it final cleaned and all the little stuff off of it, I'll shoot a coat of clear on it, and that should keep it from rusting again for quite a while. Well, I read the manual on how to get this V-boost assembly. There's a screw here. It's a strange one, big long one. This comes off, the bracket comes out, and this assembly here, it's got some grooves in it where the I'll see if I can, I'll leave this thing running here. Maybe we can, I don't have a tripod or anything, so we're just gonna pull this cable out of the little grip. It just got to go to the side. You can kind of see there what it's got to do, and then it should pull straight out of that hole. I use both hands to do that. Now that little cable didn't want to come out, so I've got this screw here that holds the whole thing together, or holds that block. I'm just going to pull it out. Good. Now this block hopefully should come apart now and enable me to get it apart. There was a little spring in the cable and didn't want to come out of that hole, so I'll disassemble it a little more and see what's in there. Yeah, this didn't turn out to be so easy. That little plastic thing has got some clips on it that holds a cover on it, and they're pretty tough, and it's got a spring, but anyway, the cable goes into it down there. I can't get enough room to pull the cable out, so we got this business up here that's holding one of the holders. I'm gonna take it out. That should give me some more room so I can get that cable out of the carburetor body. Yeah, that come out pretty easy. I just pull that screw out. There's a little clamp here. It goes on here like this. Be careful, right below that your water hole, and of course you got a spark plug there. There's a spark plug in it, but you want to be really careful not to drop that screw that was in here down into the motor. Yeah, that gave me a lot of room. See, now I can pull this up and hold it with a screwdriver and take that cable out. Don't look like it's focused, but you can see that I yanked this little screw out of here. Looks like this little cable is frayed. It's probably not good. Anyway, all this stuff is out of the way here. I can just pull it up through someplace, like up here on the top or whatever. Just get it up out of the way, and it moved this thing here. The rest of this is just wires. I shouldn't have any trouble with that. And might be a little bit of a trick putting this back together. Not exactly sure how to go about this. It might be better to put that all together here and then fix this one up here. Anyway, I don't know, I didn't read the book about putting it all back together. Most likely it just says reverse the procedure. Supposed to take these manifolds off. I guess you could. Well, obviously you can. There's 4 bolts in it. But again, I was kind of leave these on here to hold on to and move the motor around. And you know, if I have to take them off, I will. But I think the motor should come out. It looks like the next thing is to get this motor out is just to get rid of all these motor mounts and the side frame over there, this cross member. So it looks like I've got everything off of here that's gonna hold it in any way. So the motor should come right on out. Well, the book says take out the clutch and this shifter shaft. It says it's not necessary, but highly recommended. And it looks like there ain't a lot of room there. And that thing's got to go over this side of the frame, so that means that the motor's either got to be tilted or picked up from one side, and to try to get this shaft over the top of that frame. On this one, I'm not really too concerned because I'm just taking it out. But so I'm going to leave that alone. I got a couple wires here. One of them here looks like it's a neutral switch wire or something goes in there. Just got a screwdriver screw on it. I got one of these is my something else that goes down there to the motor somewhere. Oil light switch or something, and then the kickstand that looks like that can all stay. The wire will come out with the motor. So if I'm not going to take out the clutch, looks like all I got to do now is take off this all these frame mounts, put something under it to block it. I'll put something under it for temporary. I won't take it completely loose for now until I figure out what kind of a jack am I going to use under here. Well, the first thing I'm going to try to do is get this cross member out. I got all these bolts all stripped. This one's just sitting in here. These rubber blocks don't look too swift. They're really soft. I read about putting in pre-antholic ones, or I don't know what you call them, but they're really hard instead of rubber. I don't know if that'd make this frame any stronger or not. Probably would. Whether the vibration's worth it, I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to go over there and take off this other side and pull this cross member out. I've just got this stuff kind of set in there, so in case that engine does fall, it'll keep it from going anywhere. Well, the cross member came right out. I stuck the bolts in all of these holes here. Or just really rusted. You can kind of see, well, not rusted, but corroded. This is one of the nuts. This white stuff here is all the way down one of the bolts, but I just stuck them back in for now. Cross member needs to be cleaned up and painted. It's another little project. Horn, of course, here needs to be painted too. It's terrible. But that cross member will come out real easy. I'm going to go ahead and put a jack on it and remove that other side there and see what it looks like. Well, that basically was a piece of cake. These two bolts here held at I guess that's where the foot peg went. There are two bolts go up in here. That holds the end of this thing. Same thing here. Got two bolts that go into this. And here's one motor mount bolt that went through here, through the frame, and into another little rubber plug of some sort. Now this motor's kind of, you can see it move a little. I've still got one good motor mount in the back, but this little crappy jack is not going to work. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run a tie strap around the frame and motor here, just in case it does fall, keeps it from doing that. And then I'm going to go ahead and take out this back motor mount, which is over here. I've got it loose already, but I think I'm pretty much ready to pull this thing out of the frame. I don't know. I may be able to use this jack, but one-man deal. That's kind of dangerous. Can lose a finger real easy doing shit like this. So anyway, I'm gonna secure it and then see what I can do about getting that back one out and see what it looks like.